one of our ex-skippers. And for those who don't know, that means that is our managers. And this is a very strange one. There's a guy who was with us, left us, came back, and then he won a championship. That's the only way you're supposed to do it. Everybody calls him Albie. It's Craig Albernaz. Craig, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Zols?
I'm
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Thanks for giving us a couple of minutes of time. This is a weird one because you were with us. I believe you were the hitting coach, correct?
Yeah, hitting coach in 16.
All right. Then you left, or theoretically you left.
Theoretically, I left. Yes, you're right.
So
you're
theoretically you left, and where were you going to go?
I was going to be I was for that first half of the season in 2017. I was the third base coach and catching coach for Durham, for AAA, the Rays AAA affiliate.
So let's go through that again. You are a single A short season hitting coach.
Yep.
You get promoted all the way to AAA.
Yep.
Where you're the third base coach and the catching coach. For those who don't know, Albie was a catcher. And I can't wait to talk about the book you were a star in a few minutes. But then the call comes, and you figure to yourself, being a third base coach in AAA is still not as good as running my own ball club, especially in a market that I'm familiar with, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Honestly, full transparency, that was a really tough decision. It really was. The team that was put together and assembled in Durham was the future of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes.
Willie Damas, Jake Bowers, it was all the stud prospects, young prospects around the cusp. And so to be with them the first half of the year, it was special. It was special to be around them. Me, from a personal coaching standpoint, it was, I'm around Jared Sandberg, Kyle Snyder, Ozzie Timmons, who are all in the big leagues now. You're like, damn, this is a really nice spot to be. And I'm learning a lot. And not to mention being around the players. So when that call came where Tim Parrington, took the college job, and they offered it to me. Mitch and Jeff called me up. They talked for a while. I didn't say a word. They talked, and they kind of knew where I was at. They knew that I was I was embedded in that Durham team. So they gave me 24 hours to think about it. I called a lot of people, but like you alluded to, at the end of the day, you're running your own team. But it was a tough decision. It was, and it was a great choice for sure.
Well, then a couple of questions off of that. First and foremost, did it make any difference that you were coming to a club where the community already embraced you and liked you, and you had guys like me who loved you off the top, and Joe Asanio and Steve, all of those guys, that you already had a support system in place?
Oh, absolutely. Because that was a huge factor. Because usually the manager that's with Hudson Valley, Princeton, the short seasons, you're in extended, you're with the players, you're with your staff, and then you move to the affiliate. I was going straight from Durham straight to Hudson Valley. So being familiar with the area, the people there, it was just a seamless transition. Once everything was official, you reached out. Joe Asani reached out. Everyone reached out. So it was just, like you said, it was familiar, and it just made it easier. So when I drove from Durham straight to Hudson Valley, it was like I never left. So there was that comfort level was huge.
So ask a couple of more questions off of that. First, didn't the guys in AAA win the championship anyway?
They did.
All right, so hold on. So the team there wins a championship, and we'll get to details on our championship. You win a championship with us. Did you get 2 rings?
I did get 2 rings.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I did get 2 rings. It was fun. It was a fun year. Yep. Yeah, it was great. Obviously they were following us. That 17 season, what we did, and their playoffs a little longer, so I got to follow them, reaching out to Jared, kept in touch with all of them. Yeah, it was a special year.
Explain to me, because I know, but some on the call may not know, what is the differences in responsibility of being the third base coach and being the catcher coach, and then being the manager of the ball club, even though it's a lower level?
Right. It's just 2 different ends of the spectrum. In AAA Durham, you're with big leaguers, guys that, have some money in their pocket. So they're their living arrangements. It's taking they're on their own. They can fend for themselves. But in Hudson Valley, you have host families, so you have to deal with that, which is a separate entity in itself. But as far as like baseball responsibilities, like I said, like I was just a third base coach, so I would do prep work with Jared before the game. Just going over the scouting reports, and then really working with the catchers pregame, and working with Kyle to implement the game plan with the pitchers to the catcher. And that was it, and then I would kind of branch off. Jared and Ozzy would give me some responsibilities within that. But then when you go manage, I mean, everything's on you, the schedule, the players, like making sure the players are where they're supposed to be. It's not babysitting, but it's your squads. You want to make sure all the players are accounted for. You want to make sure everyone's okay. And the same thing with the staff. You're managing your own staff. So the pitching coach, hitting coach, so like Al and both Brian's, and then Blake. You want to make sure they're comfortable. Because you're essentially you're running the team. So you also want to make sure that your staff feels supported and they have everything they need.
So a unique situation, you manage the Renegades in a short season where a lot of your players are making their first step as professional athletes. Again, a lot of folks who sit in the stands don't understand that. They may come from big programs, but it's a lot different when you cross the line and you sign your name on a contract than it is when you're playing even for a big program. But you get to keep coaching third because the skippers in the Penn League coach third more often than not.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're the third base coach in AAA, does Jared give you the leeway to make your own calls offensively?
Yeah, so we worked out where he relayed signs to me, but we knew each other, so we had some trust going in, and then obviously you build trust as the season goes on. So there'll be certain times where I'll see something from the pitcher or the catcher where it'll be, a steal to the guy on first base. I'll relay that, but I'm not putting on a sacrifice bunt or a hit and run or anything like that. Like that definitely comes from the skipper, and that comes from Jared. So Jared gave me some leeway as far as a running game. And then obviously sending guys is kind of your own intuition and your own feel of what's going on in the game. And actually kind of it prepared me to manage, because at third base, when you're managing, there's a lot going on. You're worried about the offense. And then if the game swings, you have to, now I have to flip who's coming in the game, who's the pitcher that's coming up, who's coming up for them. So like you're at third base, you're going through all these different scenarios. Whereas if you're in the dugout, I wouldn't say it's easier, but you can take a step back, talk with your pitching coach, kind of figure yourself out and go ahead. So I'm at third base and I'm kind of like throwing signs at Reef to try to figure out what's going on with pitching and stuff. So, and you're kind of hoping that there is a break in the game where their pitching coach goes out to talk to the pitcher and you pull a sprint down to the dugout to kind of talk things over.
So it's some of the same duties, but the responsibility is all yours once you're doing it in Hudson Valley.
Yeah. Everything falls on you, but you also want to empower your staff. Luckily I was very fortunate to have, 3 great staff members with Al and Brian and Blake, where I knew that they're going to handle their realm and what their duties are, but also I leaned on them a lot as far as in-game management, lineup construction, pitching matchups. I leaned on them a lot.
And having Blake be your guy, then he ends up being a skipper himself, and now he's considered a star in the organization because he's a great kid. I'm sorry, but to me, he's a kid.
Absolutely.
He knows the game, and he understands, just like you did, and just like the better managers we've ever had, that at this level in the Hudson Valley, the baseball is important to you guys, but we can't sell the baseball, because if a guy comes back a second year to the New York Penn League, it's bad for their career. That means they're considered a body and they're just taking a roster spot. There's no plans for them. So I can't sell my shortstop. I've got to sell all the dopey stuff that we do in between innings to make people laugh and make them smile. And then when you guys are doing your thing during the game, then it's your responsibility. So you and Blake and Q and all the other guys down the line, they understood we had it. For the most part, 90% of our guys have understood what we try to do. We've always appreciated the fact you do it. So now let's talk a little bit about you as about a player, because I'm dying to get this one part in, because when I saw you last year, I was bursting with pride. First, let's talk about you as a kid. I'm assuming that most guys who end up being a professional athlete, no matter what sport it is, you were athletic enough to do other sports when you were young and in high school. Is that the case with you?
Yeah, I played basketball. Yeah,
point guard.
Point guard. Yeah, definitely wasn't the center or power forward with my stature. Yeah,
Albie's going underneath with the big boys.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll go down there and mix it up. I can't jump with them. That's not even close.
So you play a little basketball. At what point did you realize, you know what, there might be something here in terms of baseball for me?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be lying to you. Probably when I was like 8. I mean, I feel like every kid when you make it to the lucky fortunate enough to play college baseball, and I will never mind that. Just playing high school baseball at the varsity level, and then college, and you keep on moving on. You kind of gonna have some self confidence that you can do certain things. And me right away, I was like, you know what, I want to play professional baseball. This is it. So in my mind, I was just laser focused on that. It's funny. I got asked this question. When I was with my college, I was in a class with them and they asked me, and I was like, man, like, honestly, when I was in college, you couldn't tell me anything. Like, I thought I was the best catcher in the world. That's it. Like, and that's how with my size and, kind of having that boulder on my shoulder, not a chip, that had to prove everybody wrong, like that was my driving force, but it also, that sometimes it becomes a detriment sometimes, because you're so willing to sacrifice whatever you can to get to that level. So, I mean, at a very young age, I thought for sure I was going to play in the big leagues. You couldn't tell me anything different.
So 2 things off of that. Who's the player you looked up to?
Ken Griffey Jr., Mark McGuire, and then once I really started catching, Ivan Rodriguez. I was a baseball fanatic growing up. Definitely was an Oakland A's fan as well, like the 88, 89 team. For some reason, I loved. I can't name that whole team with the Bash brothers. That I really, really gravitated to them. But I mean, I played for the Angels when I was 12 years old, and for my 12-year-old team. So I was like, oh, Chad Curtis. Like, I love Chad Curtis because I wore 7, he wore 7. So little stuff like that. I was just a baseball fanatic.
What adult helped get you to where you got?
From as a player or a coach standpoint?
As a player. We'll get to the coaching stuff later, but as a player, we got to lead to the book. That's right. I'm leading up to the book.
Okay. Player, I mean, definitely my parents, my dad for sure. I mean, with the sacrifices they made for me, coming from where I came from, going down to Florida to college, at 17 years old, and it was tough for them. So the sacrifices they made, and kind of how my dad's work ethic kind of filtered over to me as a player. He worked his butt off, every single day. So I was like, you know what, like, that's the only thing I can do. That's the only thing I know is just to work. So definitely my mom, my dad. Was
your dad one of the dads that understood the game and then expected the most of you, where you would go 3 for 5, 2 home runs, a double, 5 RBIs, but you struck out one of the times, and he would ask you about the strikeout, not the other stuff you did?
No.
The positive guy or the negative guy?
Oh, very positive. I had this conversation a lot, and it was, my parents used to sit out beyond the outfield in high school. They wouldn't even sit in the stands. They just wanted to watch me play. And when the game was over, it was never like, oh, why'd you strike out? Why'd you swing at that pitch? It wasn't anything like that. Everything was positive. They really enjoyed just watching me play, especially my dad. I mean, working long hours, and then you just want to come and just watch me kind of do my thing. And obviously when people saw me play, they saw how much passion I had and how I love to compete. So that's one thing my dad liked.
Well, I got to believe in my heart, playing for different sports, for different coaches, that the coaches that were like that got the most out of me, rather than the Bobby Knight type coaches where they just berate you and throw basketballs at you, or whatever the sport is, where you get guys who are always in your ass, as opposed to guys who are there to support you when you're doing well and support you even more when you're doing bad. Because people don't get it. Baseball, you are ultra successful if you fail 7 out of 10 times.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the guys that constantly yell at you is just noise. That's all it is. Like, the guy just keeps on yelling at you. He's just going to keep on yelling. It's just noise. You're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. But the coach or the parent that's, very positive with you, and then at that one point he yells at you, it means something, like, okay, damn, I really messed up. It hits hard, as opposed to like the Bobby Knight, like throwing chairs and stuff like that. Like, yeah, like he did get the most out of the players, but also he had a blue chip program where he was picking out of the best basketball players in Indiana. So it's not like he was at some, IUPUI where he had to raise the program up.
Well, he also had guys that were like the number 12 guy on the roster who probably could start at many other colleges in the country.
Right. Similar to Nick Saban. I mean, he's just getting all these All-Americans, 5-star recruits. So yeah, when one guy leaves, it's just the carousel that keeps on coming.
Next up. So could you play for a coach like Bobby Knight? who was
Yeah,
constantly all over you?
yeah, I could absolutely. I mean, it's you're going to be very self confident and have self awareness and thick skin to be around that. And I feel like anyone that plays at a professional level, even college, that had success, so you have to have that. You have to have those traits, because you're gonna fail, you're gonna mess up, and it's the people that can kind of take it in the chin and keep on moving and keep on taking those punches and get back up and get back up. Those are the people that survive, and I feel like I could definitely play for those guys.
All right, so now let's talk about the book. Because when I saw you last, I practically want to hug you. I was so happy. I got the book like on one of them sale racks. The name of the book is called Where Nobody Knows Your Name, which is kind of a take on the Cheers thing. And it's written by John Feinstein, who writes amazing books. He has a litany of books about sports and behind the scenes. And he's talking about life in the minor leagues. And dude, for a guy who didn't make it to the major leagues, you are probably the biggest star in the book of guys who didn't make it to the major leagues. Like he talks about a lot of guys who were in the major leagues who fell down and went all that. But he must have loved you because there were so many stories in the book about you as a catcher who was willing to do anything to help the program, who was willing to pitch, bat leadoff, bat cleanup, bat ninth, whatever it was. You were in multiple chapters about the sacrifices you were willing to make to get the job done. And I got the impression from the book, it wasn't just to win the ball game, and it wasn't just to get noticed for you so you may move up the ladder, because it is in your DNA, that it was the way you were brought up. It's the way you approach the game that made you do all the stupid little things that the bonus babies don't want to do. And dude, the book loved you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's a great dude. We had some great conversations when he was in Durham. But yeah, he gravitated to me just for those reasons. Like me, I was undrafted, wasn't drafted by any means, so I had to scrap and claw to kind of make a way up through the minor leagues. I had some success early, especially defensively. Pitchers love throwing to me. So when I got a chance to go to AAA, even if I was there for a short stint initially in 2008 for the playoffs, and I got back up there in 2009, and you're like, okay, during the season, like, okay, I'm a step away, but knowing that I'm catching once a week, but you know what, I'm gonna try to get in this lineup as much as I can. I just want to get on the field, at that level. And then being around Charlie Montoya, great manager. It's a guy I would say the old adage you want to run through a wall for, but I mean, he was just, I love playing for him. I love being around those guys. So it's like, okay, you want me to pitch? Sure, no problem. Like whatever you want me to do to help the team win, I was all about that. Because at the end of the day, like I love being there. I love just being around the guys, but be on the bench, you're just watching the game. You want to help as much as you can with those guys. So whatever Charlie needed me to do, I definitely did it. And there's one incident that comes to mind where we were in Gwinnett. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. Friday night, I pitched 2 innings. Came back Saturday, pitched another inning, and then Sunday I caught the day game. So I was like, so my arm was hanging, but I was like, Charlie's like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, I'm good to go, man. Like, let's go. I'm fine. Knowing that I can barely lift my arm up, but you know what? Like, you want me to catch? I got you. Like, let's go. Like, I'll strap it on.
So tell me the truth. How did you hit on that Sunday?
That Sunday, I think I scrapped like 1 hit, but I did throw out the leadoff runner. He got on base. I still remember Jose Castander. He went and I threw him out. And I remember I threw it. I was like, man, I did not think that ball was going to reach second base.
So did you read the book?
Yeah, I did. I did. I haven't like circled back to it in a couple of years though.
But it's one of those books, if you want to know what it's like in the minor leagues, it's a pretty decent representation of what you guys go through in your quest to get to the next level and be that guy that gets called up, even if it's for a cup of coffee, because then you're in the baseball almanac and they could never take that away from you. So listen, the passages in that book were great. Now, one more question about the book. Is there some story that you shared with Feinstein that didn't get into the book, that you were shocked didn't get into the book?
No, actually, no. He was great. Like the stories that I gave him, that were in the book, he was there. And what was the great thing about that year was, like Charlie, he was everywhere with us. Like Charlie didn't shut him out of anything. Like Charlie was like, yeah, let's go. Like you want to write a book, you're with us.
He had like unbelievable access to all the teams that he was talking about. It's unbelievable in the locker room. even when the doors are closed, when there's no other media, that's the impression I got. And then I read an article about it that he was grateful on how much access he was granted by so many people.
Yeah, I mean that's a credit to him though. Like just the kind of how personal he is and kind of the story and how he wanted to touch the players and the minor leagues and especially with us. It was great. Like we loved having him around. It wasn't like anything different. It was a normal day.
Yeah, there was no hatchet jobs on anybody in that book. He was very supportive, and
Yeah.
he let you know the heartbreaks. He let you know the tremendous uplifting stories. I mean, honestly, again, the name of the book is Where Nobody Knows Your Name, and you can get it on the sale rack, and even on iBooks. It's like $3.99.
Mm-hmm.
It is worth the money because it's a great book, and Albie is a star in it. It's tremendous. Dude, you saw my face when I saw you last time. It wasn't even like, "Hi, dude, what's up?" It was, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, you weren't even like, "Oh, you here, manager?" Whatever. You're just like, "Hey, you're in this book. Give me a big hug." I was like, "Yeah." That's not laughing. Cool.
And then I couldn't wait to get to the next chapter to see what else was going on with Albie.
Yeah.
Great. Anyway, so as a player, when do you find out, you know what, maybe I'm not going to make it as a player, and if I want to get to the big leagues, I got to take a different route? How did you come to that thought process, and who helped you with that process?
Yeah, it was probably it was definitely the off season when I took the coaching job with the Rays. From 2009 spring training, 2014 spring training, I was always invited to big league camp. So even though I knew I was a long shot of making the team in spring training, obviously, but also throughout the course of the year, even to get a call up was going to be tough. But when you go to big league camp, you're in front of the major league staff's eyes. So you're like, okay, they see me. Going into 15 off season, 14 off season going into 15, I didn't have any big league camp invites. The Brewers wanted me to come in and be a minor league invite. Detroit invited me back to be a minor league invite. So it was kind of like, oh, there's the writing on the wall. And probably when I was sitting in a week later, Bill Levis called me up and was like, hey, we have a hitting coach opportunity in Princeton, hitting/catching. Are you interested? I was like, you know what? Like I am, but let me think about it. He goes, we'll give you a couple of days, talked it over with my family, talked it over with my fiance at the time, my wife now, Genevieve. And yeah, to me, it was a no-brainer as far as, if you kind of lay out the next couple seasons, I was to hang on and play for another year or two. At that point, it was extremely difficult to be a coach. It was before the four coaches at every level. So to have an opportunity to get in, it was extremely rare. So when Bill reached out and I went down to interview with Mitch, to me, it was very apparent, like, this is what I want to do.
All right, so I'm actually getting one of those announcements where this just in, and has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It has to do with the survival of this call. Apparently, there is a lot of thunderstorms in our area, and the weather is very iffy. And if it loses power, we'll come right back up, or you can watch the tape of it later. And this whole thing is sponsored by our friends at Davis Furniture, and we appreciate that. But bottom line, if we go away, don't worry, we're still going to be here. We're going to keep talking. And the worst case scenario, we will get an opportunity. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it later. So just want to make sure that people get an opportunity to see everything. So now back to the fact you come back, you're our manager, and you look, when I spoke to you right away, you were ready to go. Did you know then that you had a special team from seeing those? Because again, most of the guys were drafted. So you didn't have any experience with these kids, or most of the kids. I'm sure the extended guys you may have seen in spring training, but most of the kids you don't know from a hole in the wall.
Yeah, I had no idea. I knew a couple of them. There's a couple of repeat guys, a couple of guys I saw in young guys I saw in extended or instructional league, the previous instructional league. But I mean, I believe we lost 14 games in a row early, didn't we? It was 14 in a row.
Listen, that's what it was. It was the most amazing comeback because, in all fairness, and I'll say it, you don't have to. We sucked in the beginning. We could not find our footing at all, and we were losing games ugly. It was ugly. Then it was like, do you know what the point was, or the moment was where the switch went on and they figured it out?
No, honestly, I mean, there probably was one, but at the end, I was just so hell bent on just getting these guys better. So was our staff, because at the end of the day, we're in the minor leagues, so it's all about developing, right? We can kind of get into that later, but you're trying to developing the players. So even though we're losing, there's still big leaguers on the team. So you're like, you know what, like to our staff, like we got to stay positive, keep on staying positive, even though we lost for 2 weeks straight. Any way you can think about losing the game, we lost it. Blowing a 5-run lead in the ninth, whatever you can think of, we did it. So this is keep on staying positive with these guys, and to know like there's a bigger picture with this, So, and credit to to Al, Blake, and Brian. We still kept the culture and atmosphere where it was still fun to show up and work. And then once we got that first win to break up that losing streak, then we won again. It was just one of those things where it's like, okay, now the tides are turning. And then never mind, everything just kind of fell into place with our pitching, starting and relieving, and then we were just winning games. Guys just really bought into playing for each other and ultimately like winning through development. So it was fun.
So the big stud in the draft ends up in the Hudson Valley, Brendan McKay.
Yep.
And when I saw him throw the first time, I said to myself, well, that kid's going to get to the big leagues as a pitcher. There's no doubt in my mind that tools-wise, he's a pitcher. I didn't know if he would get enough bats to make it as a hitter, because it's hard to explain to a person the difference from hitting 97 in the Penn League and hitting 97 in the major leagues. Because the major leagues, 97 moves a lot more, and then they have so many other pitchers that are filthy to go with it. So I thought he was going to have some difficulties unless he got reps. But I will tell you, my one memory of him is we had an extra inning game, and we're playing, I think, the Astros farm team. And they had this 6'5" Latin kid that was throwing 102 on the gun. And he was also a left-handed pitcher. So you have a lefty throwing, and he walked a guy to get to McKay to bring the lefty in. And this kid threw a 102-mile-an-hour fastball to McKay that the freak turned on and pulled it over the left center field wall. And I mean, dude, it was not a scraper. It was, in geocentric orbit. I mean, he peed on it. So that's when I said, well, maybe I may not be right about the whole hitting thing. But, oh, my God, what a special talent. You can always tell when you see the guys that are no-doubters. And McKay was a no-doubter.
Yeah, he was special. I mean, he still is special. But, I mean, he was the number one rated bat coming out of the draft. Also one of the top rated pitchers as well. So it was just, this mystical player. And not to mention, he's such a great kid and a great dude. So it makes everything that much sweeter, and kind of see his success and be around it. You couldn't be happy for him. But, you see him, I believe he had 4 home runs or pitches thrown over 100 miles an hour that season. So you saw what he can do with the bat. But, that's something we talked about as a staff, knowing that he's going to be behind hitting just because of he would get into a groove, and then it would be his bullpen day, then he can't hit. So kind of like his schedule, the way it was constructed, it was tough for him to kind of get in the rhythm where everyone else is hitting every single day, and you kind of just get a feel for your swing, and you kind of just roll right into it, whereas he's always stopping and going. So it was tough to you get some traction going. Because he would go 3 for 3, and it would be his pen day, and then he's not hitting. He didn't hit at all. Like, couldn't pick up a bat at all. So for that, it was tough for him. So even when he did turn around 100 miles an hour, you're like, yeah, that's impressive. Like he didn't even hit yesterday or whatever it was. But it's funny you bring up when you saw him pitch, like, oh, he's a pitcher. Me and Al, every time when he hit a home run, we'd be like, oh, he's a hitter. And then when he goes on the mound, he's throwing 96, carving up everyone. Like, oh, he's definitely a pitcher.
And both sides of the ball, he's so effortlessly, the way he swings, it's a beautiful textbook swing that they write about. And on the mound, the kid is, first of all, people don't understand, he's not that big. For him to throw that hard, and he has the perfect makeup to be a pitcher, because it looks like nothing bothers him. Nothing phases him. And when you see him on both sides of the ball, when I saw him with us, I said, man, he's going to get to the big league. Like, I remember, he's pitched, Price. Price came to the Renegades, put on a uniform, threw one bullpen, and they shut him down immediately and said, you know what? You're good. We're going to send you to Instructs. And they shut the dude down because he was that filthy in that bullpen. He looked the same to me, that just overpowering stuff that had that snap. And when he's a freak. He honestly is a freak.
Yeah, he was different. He just carried himself differently the days he pitched. When he was on the mound, he was a different person. He was obviously he's quiet, but you can just tell just the way he was just chesty on the mound, and the way he just attacked you as you're hitting. Like, I think, talking to him, obviously he knows how tough hitting is. So he used that attack plan when he was on the mound. So he never gave in. Like, he had no fear, no matter who he was facing. And he's still to this day, even in the big leagues, he doesn't care. He's going to go out there and throw what he does. If you hit him, great. If you don't, it is what it is. So he's just a different cat.
All right, 2 more McKay questions. First, it's from Connor on Zoom, and he said, "How was your experience of coaching McKay?"
It was awesome. Like I said, I mean, obviously the physical attributes stand out on both sides of the ball. So that's something where you don't coach. I mean, it's gifted, but just the person he was, the person he still is. Great with his teammates, brought it every single day. It was a person you didn't have to worry about. Even though he was so highly touted, coming in with some money and stuff, he was such a pleasure to be around. Like I said, brought it every day. Great with the teammates. And to kind of see him, honestly, deep down, I love to see him struggle at the plate. Because you want to see that guy with that caliber, how he's going to handle himself. Like how he's going to handle the failure, and he did, and it's still from that instance in short season, kind of helped him through the minor leagues, knowing that he can fail, get back up, and still keep going.
The last question on McKay. What was it like for you personally when you saw the kid make it to the big leagues so soon and pitch well when he got there?
Oh, it was awesome.
Is that like dad pride when it happens?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say dad pride, but it's just you see the kid just work his tail off all these players. It's not like you had something to do with their success. It's just that you're just there, a part of what they've go through. The grind every single day. Going up through the minor leagues, instructional league, spring training. Like you see the work behind the scenes, and then to see them achieve their dreams, to walk on a big league field. I mean, it's awesome. It's such a thrill. So I saw him do that quickly. It put a smile on my face. Because I see him as in Hudson Valley, just struggling at the plate and then trying to find himself as a pitcher. Him coming to me, he's like, "Hey, can I throw one more inning?" I'm like, "No, dude. Like you can't throw. You're on a pitch count because you threw X amount of innings in college. We're trying to save your arm so you can rip through the minor leagues and go to the big leagues." So those little conversations kind of stand out in your mind.
All right. So now give me one story about the championship team, because you guys come out of that funk and then you really turn it around. And in all honesty, you beat teams up.
Yeah, we did. It was fun. Like I said, it was a full team effort. Like Deion Tansel, helping us out. Like guys like that, like Taylor Walls, Bruhan. Like there was so many great people on that team. I think it was funny where this is like a true story. And this is a confidence of our team. Was the only game we lost was in Staten Island, and it was when Jake Ferrier was a big league rehab. And he started that day, and we had Drew Strotman. And if you saw Drew Strotman that pitch, he was probably the greatest pitcher in New York Penn League history. It was unbelievable. Like one outing in Vermont, he didn't throw a ball until the 4th inning. Like it was impressive. So he's supposed to throw that day. So Cash calls like, "Hey, Albie, we got Jake Ferrier coming down. He's gonna throw for you in the playoffs." Like, yeah, no problem. But I told the team that, and the whole team was kind of looked at each other like, "Well, does he have to?" we want Drew to pitch. Like Drew is. We're gonna win. Like we want Drew to pitch. Nothing. Like they don't know Jake in a hole in the wall, but you just know like everyone just wants. Like there was such a camaraderie and togetherness with the team. They're like, "No, we don't want Jake Ferrier pitching. Like we don't care if he's in the big leagues or rehab. But we want Drew Strotman pitching." And so Jake ended up giving just a typical big league rehab. No adrenaline. He's just getting his work in, and I think he gives up like 3 or 4 in the 1st inning. And so the guys were like, "Hey, can we take him out now? Can we put Drew in?" Like, what? It was just funny. But then from that game, we did put Strotman in, and I remember the 1st inning, me and Brian Reed had a conversation in the dugout while the game was going on, trying to game plan and manipulate. Okay, if Strotman throws 2 innings, when can he come back and pitch? He's like, okay, if he can come back and pitch game 2 of the championship. So we kind of manipulated that outing. I wouldn't say we threw the game away, but we took Drew out of the game, kind of foreshadowing, okay, when we get to the championship, we're going to have him for game 2. And everything worked out because he ended up pitching the deciding game for us.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody, including the brass, would have a problem with that, because the bottom line is that, yes, you're there to develop, but you also got to teach them how to win early. So it's a culture of winning, moving up the ladder. And you did your due diligence. You started the big league rehab guy, and he put you behind the 8 ball. So why waste innings on the guy that can make a difference when you need him in the next round? No one can fault that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we talked to Dewey, we talked to Mitch. We went through the proper channels, and they were all for it. I mean, they know. You've talked to all those guys. You know, there's one thing that the late Jimmy Hoff always told me, and Bill Evans is that you develop. Yeah, it's all about development, but you have to win too. Like you don't just show up to the big leagues and kind of learn how to win. Like that's something where you have to learn throughout the minor leagues, and there's ways that you can do that. And I feel like the Tampa Bay Rays do a very good job of doing that through their minor leagues, of instilling that winning culture, but also that personal development.
And I've said it a couple times. I think I said it when Q was on as well, that that Mitch has got to be one of the best baseball guys I've ever met in my life. A guy who cares, a guy who understands the game and can make magic. And he ended up being your boss for a while. And let's talk about now leaving. So after you leave us and you win that championship, where do you go next?
I went to go manage Bowling Green, the Rays Midwest affiliate.
And then what do you do?
We won the championship that season.
Okay, yeah. That's where I'm leaving you.
yeah, we won the championship that season.
Yeah. So what you're saying is in 2 seasons you had 3 championship rings.
Yeah, very, very lucky, very fortunate. Very lucky. That Bowling Green team, it was such a different. It was 2 great teams, but also winning and how that season went was like completely 2 different spectrums. Whereas like in Hudson Valley, we had to grind and scrap and claw, lost 14 straight, had to come back. Whereas Bowling Green, we just ran through the league. We were 90-49. Whereas like we're popping bottles and celebrating in June because we clinched the first half. We're in the playoffs. Now it's like, oh man, we have a whole half season to play. How are we going to keep these guys motivated? And again, our staff those guys were great as keeping them motivated in atmosphere, and we ended up winning the second half and kind of just going through the playoffs.
Well, I mean, we had some of those players with us, so we knew you had some animals at that level.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, do you have our ring? Since mine is at my desk. Did you forget?
Yeah. No, I got to step out. I'll grab it right now.
Go get the ring.
Keep them talking, Zols.
All right, so I called him earlier today, and I said, listen, it's out on my desk, the championship ring from your year, and I was too far north of the stadium to drive down and get it. I said, well, you must have a ring. Can you please make sure you bring it so you can show it to everybody, the championship ring? Look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The box is great. Oh, yeah.
Your Penn League champs.
Yeah, first class. Eben and Steve did it right, man. It was first class all the way. Like, it was like these rings are sharp.
Yeah, I've never taken it out and put it on because, my feeling is I didn't break up any double plays or hit any balls in the gap. So I keep it in that box, but that's a great presentation. It really is. That is a super presentation. So, all right, 3 championship rings in 2 seasons. What's the process that now has you in the major leagues, even with that nasty team in San Francisco that I'm forgetting?
So I managed the Bowling Green team. Then the following year, obviously we had some movement, and Bill Evans left to go be with the big leagues with the Twins. Rocco took him. So the field coordinator job opened up. They reached out to me and kind of offered me the job. So I was the lower level minor league field coordinator for the Rays. So I did that, and then the season was over, and Gabe Kapler was fired from the Phillies. Giants hired him, and he reached out to me. Well, he actually reached out to proper channels. He reached out to Eric Neander, asked permission to interview me for the job. That was late on Monday night, the first day of the winter meetings. And Eric reached out to me, and Neander was like, "Hey, the Giants want to interview you for their bullpen coach job. So Gabe, he'll be calling you up." Gabe called me the following morning. We talked for probably about 2 hours on the phone, a lot of baseball talk. We had a little bit of history because he played with the Rays in 2009. I was in big league camp with them. And then he did some like special assistant scouting work with the Rays in 2013 when I was a player. So he came in Durham a lot. So he kind of knew who I was as a person, but it was more so kind of like more baseball conversation. So we talked for 2 hours in the morning, and then about 45 minutes to an hour later, he called back and they offered me the job. Yeah, it was an emotional roller coaster of a day, man. It was crazy. It really was.
You're waiting for the phone to ring at that point.
We're waiting for the phone to ring, and your head spinning. You're like, wow, like I just got offered a big league job. It was crazy. And then then I reached out to Eric to kind of let him know like kind of what transpired, and he texted back, was like, "Hey, by the way, the Pittsburgh Pirates reached out and they want to interview you as well." So it was like, oh, another team's in the mix. Like it was just a crazy day, and kind of telling a big league GM like, nah, no thanks, but thank you. I'm going to go with the Giants. It was just a crazy day, and never mind just leaving the Rays. Like they treated me so well. So many great people that were a part of my development as a player and as a coach, as a staff member for a long time, and to kind of get the opportunity to be in the big leagues and leaving the Rays, it was bittersweet.
But those guys, that's what they're about too, because they're developing you guys as well. Yes, we'd love to have you in our organization, but the same thing happened with Q. Q went away,
Right,
and then he came back, and now he's a bench coach.
right.
So it's a process, and it's
Yeah.
and being a player, you're moving up the ladder and looking to get that one big break where you can write the lineups and not have to coach third ever again.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end, I firmly believe this. I tell my wife this all the time, is that it's just tough to kind of be like pick a job where you want to be. You're just trying to be a great wherever you're at. You're just trying to make an impact, no matter where you're at. It's tough to control where you're going to be next year or the year after that. Just as long as you're just trying to make an impact with the players around you, people around you, you should be in a good spot.
It's going to be difficult to do this for you because you were only with us for 2 years, one as a coach, one as a manager. So we've asked every skipper their all-star team.
Yep.
So let me write the positions down, and you can start thinking, because that's where we're going to go next. So
Okay.
we're going to go around the infield: first base, second base, shortstop, third base, catcher, left field, center field, right field. Then you get to pick 4 pitchers and one relief specialist, and we call them a closer. So
Okay.
who's your first baseman, and tell us a little about each one of your selections.
First baseman will be Nate Lowe. Nate Lowe came in from Mississippi State. He hit from start to finish. Worked hard every single day in the cage. That's when I was a hitting coach, in 16 I had him. And obviously he's in the big leagues now, but he was just a worker, just loved to hit, and he smashed. He hit the ball so high. We had a little game with exit velocity after each game, and he was always tops.
Yeah, and a good guy too.
For sure. Yeah, him and Josh. His parents are great.
Yep. Second base.
Vidal Brujan. That kid, man, he grew up so much that year. The following year in Bowling Green, to him to get in the 40-man, to kind of sign for like 20 grand out of Dominican Republic. He is the empathy. He just exemplifies just true grit. Just no one's to stop him in his way. He just willed himself to where he's at.
So far, I could have named the first 2. Who you got at shortstop?
Taylor Walls.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's.
I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah. In my opinion, he's the best defensive shortstop in minor league baseball, and it's not even close.
Will he get to the big leagues just based on that?
I think so. I think so. It's special to watch. It's just his jumps, his athleticism, the consistency of converting ground balls for outs. Like, there's a lot that comes into play. He never takes a play off. So last year, being a field coordinator, I videotaped his pregame throwing routine, and then also his and recorded his pre-pitch movement and his jumps for ground balls for a teaching point for all the infielders.
And here's a weird thing. I'm pretty far away in the PA booth, but he seemed like a kid who was smarter than the average kid, who had a high baseball IQ, who somehow always seemed to be in the right spot at the right time based on pitch selection, based on his own athleticism. But when you're already good and you add to it intelligence and knowing where to be, to me, he was, if he could figure out how to hit consistently, especially on that level, he can flat out pick it.
Yeah, I agree. He has a lot of feel for the game. He has a great feel for the strike zone. That was in Bowling Green, because in Hudson Valley, he didn't have that great of a year offensively. They went to Bowling Green. He turned it on. He showed people what he is. He can impact a ball. He sees the strike zone well. So he kind of put himself on the map the following year.
Yes, you see, once they leave us, I lose track with them until they get to the big leagues. All right, third base.
Jim Haley. Yeah, Jim Haley. He was, come from Penn State, super athletic. Could have went to Villanova and played football and baseball, but he went to Penn State just to play baseball. And he's a guy, he hit, in Hudson Valley. I think he hit close to 300. Played a good defense at third, but it was a different 300. I wouldn't say it was a soft 300, but it wasn't like he was driving the ball, and he made some great adjustments. And then when I had him, in Bowling Green the following year, he banged. Yeah.
Catcher. Now that's got because you know the position.
Yeah, Zach Lowe. Yeah, Zach Lowe was. I mean, what he did. It was his first year catching the year we won the championship. Just got converted, and he took to it like he's been catching his whole life. You know, he just moved well behind the plate. And not to the main thing that really stood out to me was how he controlled the pitching staff. You know, it's just tough. Guys that haven't done that before, to control the staff and call a game, like he picked it up right away. It was awesome.
And he was a leader, and you could tell the pitchers respected him, and like almost like they didn't want to disappoint him by missing the spots or missing the location.
Absolutely. And then during that stretch run, I mean, he caught a lot for us, and he wanted it. He hated it when I was like, dude, you got an off day today. He's like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I got to play. So I was like, no, Z, you got to take a day, dude.
Are you ready to laugh? When I read the book and read about you, I immediately thought of Zach. That he is absolutely an Albie-like player, going to get the most out of what he has because he's not a big guy.
No.
And flat out, you could see that he's a leader on the field. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm looking at Albie with just a lot more hair.
Oh, and so much more athletic. The dude was a stud center fielder. The year before, I'm like, probably arguably one of the best center fielders in our system. You know, it's the way he can go get it. Then to make him a catcher, it was it was fun. But before we move into the outfield, I want to throw a utility guy into the mix.
You know what? I'll let you have a utility guy. Go ahead.
Dion Tansel. I mean, that dude was as scrappy as they come. He had big hit after big hit for us during that championship run. And then Taylor went down for a week or so with a quad injury kind of towards the end of the year. And he filled in and played a great shortstop.
All right. I'll let that fly.
I appreciate that, Zolf.
All right. You're a left fielder.
So the outfield is tough. To me, the outfield is tough. We had a lot of really good outfielders.
I don't care if you put a right fielder in left field. Just give me.
Yeah, I mean, like as we get through it, like there's one name I'm going to leave off, and it's just because he got hurt. It was Ryan Bolt. So like you can see just how special he is, but he didn't get enough at bats, I think, to qualify for this. But he was definitely impressive. Probably left field would be Garrett Whitley.
Let's talk about him a little bit. Now, when you're the number one draft pick, for people who are not in the know, there's an immediate expectation.
Yep.
That kid didn't necessarily meet those at the Hudson Valley, but he seemed, as an outsider looking in, to be a great kid that was putting all his work in, that was doing everything he could to justify that first pick. And at times he seemed frustrated, but he never seemed, again, outwardly, you saw a different kid in the clubhouse. He never seemed to get down. And I've always wished the best for that kid and hope that the switch is finally going to go for him. Because you can see athletically, he's a beast.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he hits the crap out of a baseball. It's ridiculous how hard he can hit a baseball. And you see the athleticism on the field. And like you said, like, he's such a great kid. Like his parents raised well, like just comes from a great family. He's like not arrogant, not even close, like works his butt off. And he had a lot of tough breaks. You know, he got hurt. He went to Australia, had a good showing in Australia. He's going into spring training, about to break with high A, looking great in spring training, and literally the last game of spring training dives and blows out his shoulder, and he's done for the year. You know, just stuff like that. But he has all the ingredients to be an impact big leaguer. It's just one of those things where it's other stars going to align. Like, and just like anything, like there has to have some luck behind you. It doesn't matter how good you are. There needs to be a little bit of luck for these guys to kind of get to the big leagues. And hopefully Garrett, the luck will change. And that's another thing where it's tough about this year, where it's kind of what's looming is the possible of no baseball and, no minor league baseball, and that's tough for a guy like that. Like that development and where he's at and his age is instrumental.
Yeah, he can't take a year off.
No, I mean, it's so tough. Like all these guys can't, it's just, that's probably a whole nother 2-hour conversation in itself.
And a lot of times guys leave us and it's like, oh, thank God that idiot is gone. but as not with Garrett. I mean,
No.
I've always wished him well and hoped for him. And you could see that the pieces are there. And like you said, if the stars ever align, I hope they do for him, because the bonus is if he was a 15th round draft pick, they wouldn't have the patience with him. But because they have money invested in the guy, and because he's a good guy, I think they're going to give him every chance possible to hope that the light switch is going to go on.
Oh yeah, and not to mention, like, you don't ever give up on a kid with what he can do on the field, like what he can bring to the table, because what's going to happen is that, I'm not saying it would, if he does, like, if a person like that from another organization, they let him go, I know whatever, there's going to be 20 other organizations ready to jump on that kid, and then next thing you know, then he's going to be in the big leagues with them. So that's definitely a kid you didn't ever want to give up on.
He's not one of those kids that's going to get released by the Rays and end up playing independent baseball. He's going to get signed immediately by somebody else.
Yeah, man. Like the Rays won't do that anyways.
Center fielder.
We'll go with Jake Fraley. Actually, no. Jake Fraley will play right. Kyle Chester, center field. We'll go Kyle Chester.
I was about to smack you. I want to tell you the truth.
Kyle Chester.
Because I think and we called him the Freak. You remember that?
Oh man, those string of catches he made, tracking those balls down, it was ridiculous.
He had a couple of week thing there where he was the best center fielder that I ever saw in that building.
Oh man, like when he came up and saw him play and he was making those catches, it was KK-ish. It was almost like Kevin Kiermaier out there. His jumps, kind of how he moved, it was fun to watch. And he swung the bat well for us too. He coming from Miami, he had a good idea of who he was at the plate, and it was good to see him. And then obviously we had him the following year in Bowling Green, and he kind of kept it rolling.
Well, you gave me a heart attack there because I thought you forgot the best center fielder ever. And did you say you're going to throw him right?
Jake Fraley.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, Jake. I mean, stolen base leader for us that year, and then obviously what he's doing now. And I was fortunate enough to have him in Australia when he was the MVP of the whole Australian League. When I was out there coaching him, what he's done and the type of person he is. It's just so fun to watch. Like guys like that succeed.
All right, let's go down your pitching staff, because oh my God, you have the record for the longest one ever. We're having so much fun. So I need four pitchers. Doesn't have to be all lefties, all righties, whatever you want. Give me four.
Well, we'll go DH and pitcher Brandon McKay. But he's definitely the DH and pitcher Brandon McKay. We'll go Drew Strotman, Tobias Myers, and this last one, it was tough for me to kind of decide between, because my initial I was leaning towards Mikey York that 1 year, but he left early, but he was so dominant before he left, and he's such a great dude, man. He's a pleasure to be around. So it was a toss up between him and Austin Franklin.
I'm gonna give it to Mikey York because he asked that girl to marry him, and his dad's in the stands going, "I don't know about this."
Yeah, his dad's great. Yeah, Mikey's he was nasty before he went to Bowling Green for us.
Yep. And then finally your closer. I know we don't really have closers, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at it. First thing that pops in my mind was Joe Serapico. He didn't give up a run at all that year in Hudson Valley. But then managing, we had Zach Mozingo come up and who solidified the back end of our bullpen. Like I remember bringing in Zach in Vermont with the bases loaded, nobody out, and he gets out of it in a tie game. Like I thought
it's the last game in the playoffs. It's the ninth inning. We got a 2-1 lead. You have runners on first and second. Who are you giving the ball to? That's how we're going to decide this argument.
Mozingo all day. It's just I don't know if he was undrafted, but when you saw him pitch, like, man, he's got some funk. He's got some good stuff. And I think he blew out his knee that off season, and he never was the same after that. So it was tough. Yeah.
Oh, so he's not around anymore?
I don't know if he's not around, but I know he was rehabbing for a little bit. Yeah.
Well, my God, this is 55 minutes, and I appreciate the fact that you hung out with us this long. Loved your time with us. Man. Loved your time with us. I always wish you the best of luck, except when you're playing one team on the West Coast, and then even our friendship can't get by that.
Man, thanks for having me. I enjoyed this. Obviously, you know how much I love my time up in Hudson Valley and all the people there, the fans. Still that the greatest moment for me was when we came back from Vermont and we had Johnny Haraz carry the trophy off the bus to everyone. That still was awesome. But yeah, Thanks for having me, and I love the people up in the Hudson Valley.
All right, folks, there you got it's our moment with Albie, one of our favorite managers. He was only with us for a year as a manager, one as a coach, but he has a thing about winning championships until he got to the major leagues. Then he's going to struggle.
Oh, shit.
Come on, man. You know I got to say it. Albie, I wish you the best,
man.
buddy. Thanks for being
Thanks,
here.
brother.
Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.